What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Blazers Uprise live here on a Thursday night. Today, we got a lot to talk about as Blazer workouts have continued. There's also a prospect that we're going to have to add to the first round of our big boards. We're going to touch upon the Terrence Shannon trial. We're going to talk about the Blazers potentially trading up in this draft, as according to some recent rumors, that might be a possibility. And we'll talk about rumors regarding other picks and whatnot. Now, before we jump into things, my internet has been real rough lately, so if the stream lags out, we'll be right back with another link, because it will lag out for a couple minutes, shut down the stream, and then it'll be fine for a little while afterwards. I'm going to try and get somebody out from Xfinity, because I got Xfinity, to sort out that issue, because I know the lag has been a little rough. I apologize. I don't know what else to try other than to cry on the customer service line and get somebody out here. Eric, hopefully you didn't cry today like I'm going to have to. How was your day?
No, I don't think I cried today. That's good.
That's good.
How's everyone in chat? Thanks for joining us. Other than that, how was your day, Tori?
It was good, man. Played some basketball. Did some work. Basic Thursday for me. Going live a little earlier than normal today, which is always good. In chat, hopefully you had a good day. Thank you for joining us today. Let's talk about the NBA Finals, Eric. They're over, right?
Yeah.
Celtics, I mean, I'll just say they're going to win their first championship since the KG, Paul Pierce, Ray Allen, Doc Rivers era. They've only won one championship since like 1985, 1986 or something. Of course, this is going to be banner number 18. They go up 3-0 after beating Dallas in Game 3. This series has not been a good look for Kyrie in the first two games, but he made a bunch of shots in Game 3. He looked pretty good. It also has not been a good series for Luka. And Brian Windhorst, we don't talk about ESPN stuff much, but Brian Windhorst had a viral clip where he went off on Luka Doncic. Went off on him. Talking about him complaining about the refs, him playing absolutely no defense. And Eric, this might be the worst defensive series, worst defensive NBA Finals from a key player that I've ever seen. Luka's defense has been terrible. Now, he has been banged up with an injury, and he does have to carry a lot of that offensive load, and Jason Kidd has that Dallas team playing a lot of ISO ball, so it's not doing Luka any favors. Then again, Luka's never really been one to succeed playing off the ball, but this series has been a poor look for Luka. Do you agree with that? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's the reason they're here too, so I don't know if you could really harp on it too much, but I mean, his defense has not been good in this series. It's one of the key reasons why they are down 3-0, especially, fouling on the perimeter, trying to take a charge in a 2-point game in the fourth quarter. Like, you cannot take yourself out of the game like that on a play like that, especially when you're already known as not a great defender. So I think you just got to kind of accept it. I think a lot of it is he's been playing hurt, and he's getting shots before the game in his chest. So we know he's not the greatest defender, but yeah, I don't know how much you can blame him too much for this, but it has been bad.
Yeah, 100%. Also, if you just got a couple ads, I apologize. I accidentally clicked this insert ad icon at the top, which
I was like, what is going on?
Did you get one?
Yeah.
I accidentally clicked it. Well, I thought it was going to be like a drop down. I've never actually really paid attention to the top right here on my YouTube setup. So I clicked the little like money icon, and then I was like, oh wait, that says insert ad. Whoops. So my apologies about the ads. But if there's any like glitchiness where it like randomly plays an ad otherwise, it's not me, it's YouTube being weird. But also it's my internet being weird. Whole setup is weird. The finals is where stars get critiqued the most, whether it's good or bad, right? Like the finals, it makes and breaks superstars in a way. because Luka has led this team to this point. They maybe are a play-in team without him. He's a fantastic player. But at the same time, this series is exposing how bad his defense is, which nobody ever thought Luka Doncic was a good defender. But my goodness, like, some of these plays from him, I didn't know his defense was this bad. Maybe it's worse. Maybe it's worse than it was because, I don't really pay attention to Luka Doncic defensively. But you see clips after the game where it's like, man, this dude's giving no effort. It's the finals. Like, even if you're hurt, even if you're a poor defender, you expect it's the finals, give some sort of effort, right? Like Dame, he would maybe coast at times during the season, but when the playoffs ramped up, like, he would at least give effort. And he was at a physical disadvantage, being only 6'2", but you would at least see him like put forth consistent effort in the playoffs. If you saw Dame in the finals, he would be busting his ass defensively. And maybe that doesn't equate to good defense, but at least it's not as bad as what Luka is doing. So I don't know if he's truly that hurt that it's causing all these defensive lapses, but it's not the best look. And it's something that he's going to have to overcome because Boston has just straight up targeted him. Every time Luka gets on the ball, it's a blow-by. And it's collapsing the defense and either a layup at the rim or a kick-out three. And Boston hadn't shot the three too well in games 1 and 2. In game 3, they were tied at halftime and then had a barrage in the third quarter. They were up 21 in the fourth. Now, Dallas fought back and got it within 3. Some of that was some home court advantage. It's the finals. Like, I had a feeling Dallas would find a way to fight back in that game, but they should have never been down that much in the first place. A lot of it was because of the way Luka was getting targeted. So he has to commit to being a little better defensively. Also, I think he's mentally taking himself out of games a little bit, complaining about the refs. And I share some of his same complaints. I don't think last game 3, was refereed fairly between both sides. I felt like Boston was allowed to play a lot more physically than Dallas. But if you're Luka, you can't let that get into your head. The finals are going to be refereed a little bit looser. There's going to be more physicality, and you have to mentally fight through it. And I think Luka has struggled with that as well. So this is something that he can learn from. This has kind of exposed him at the highest level, right? It takes special players to lead your team to a championship. Luka has a little bit of work to do to get to that point.
Yeah, but I don't know. Up until this series, once again, he's not a good defender. He hasn't played great defense or anything, but that you were comparing it to the Dame situation where Dame at least tries or plays hard a lot. And I did see that from Luka prior to this series in this playoffs. You could tell he was trying to play defense. Now, whether he's a capable defender, that's probably not the case, but he at least had some moments defensively in these playoffs where it's like, okay, he's at least trying on that end. The complaining about the refs is, yeah, that's a different story. I agree that's probably it's just gotten out of control and it's become a detriment. But as far as the defense, I think he can't. He's trying his best to physically play in this game, but if it wasn't the finals, I don't think he'd be out there. So I can't kill him too much for playing in a situation where he probably shouldn't even be on the court.
Yeah, I would agree with that if I didn't see so many mental lapses. Because it's not just like physical lapses where he's getting blown by or he just can't slide. It's like falling completely asleep off ball. There's been too many instances like that. Or there's plays where he's not even in a bad position and he like gives up on sliding his feet just to try and poke the ball out. I feel like some of it is physical, 100%, but it can't be 100% the excuse because there's a lot of stuff defensively that I feel like he's doing mentally where he's just not locked in for whatever reason. And you compare the mental side of dealing with the refs like he's been dealing with them with some of the mental mistakes he's had defensively, and I feel like the frustration is getting to him. Like he's getting frustrated and he's not locked in. And he's had some good offensive performances, but 11 for 27 last game, like not the best shooting night. Kind of got locked down late before he fouled out. I think it's his first finals. The finals, you're usually playing against the best team from the other conference at the highest level, the highest intensity that he's ever played at. And it has a way of, in my opinion, exposing a thing or two. And the adversity in the finals is tougher to deal with, in my opinion, because it's more magnified because you're playing for a ring. And there's a level of mental strength that you need as a star to be able to push through that mentally, stay focused on the end goal when it's right in front of you. And that's something he has to work on.
Yeah. I mean, even like Jordan and LeBron didn't win a title till they were much older.
Yeah. It takes some experience.
So, yeah, I do. But, I mean, the dude's gotten shots in his chest before every game from what the reporting is. I'm not going to kill him or emphasize a few games versus what he's done his whole career. He's absolutely carried that team throughout his career. So I'm just a little hesitant to be like too harsh on him for like 3 bad games.
Yeah. It's constructive criticism. He can learn from this. He can absolutely learn from this. Now, let's move on. Let's talk about Blazer workouts. Eric. So, that vaunted 3-on-3 workout, that was private, huh?
Why, though? I don't understand.
I don't know. I don't understand. So, I was saying on Monday, oh, it's tomorrow, and then I didn't hear anything about it. It was like, maybe it wasn't on Tuesday? And now they just had a recent workout that wasn't private with other guys. So, it happened on Tuesday, correct? But for some reason, it was private?
I mean, it was reported by people that we had that workout on Tuesday. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's what I'd heard. That was going to be on Tuesday. And yeah, so it was on Tuesday. Unfortunately, nothing. Now, it's funny because in a recent stream, I had somebody comment after the stream and say, I'm paraphrasing basically because I don't remember exactly what it was, but somebody said, every team does workouts with a bunch of guys. Imagine getting excited over draft workouts. Be better. And it's like, oh man, I'm not negative enough. Dang it. But also, it's like, I'm excited for this draft, man. I'm excited to hear interviews from these players. I've listened to a bunch of these different interviews, and it's not like there's anything super insightful because they get asked the same questions, like, what were you looking to prove out there? And where are your other workouts, right? It's like, okay, I could Google their other workouts, but it's still interesting, and I like seeing clips of, these players in Blazer gear, right? It might be your only time to ever see, I don't know, Zach Edey in a Blazer uniform. Now, maybe you're going to see him in a Blazer uniform for the next 15 years, but who knows, right? So it's just kind of cool to see. It's something that I enjoy seeing as a fan. I don't know how you feel, chat, but I don't understand that 3-on-3 being private. Like, everybody knows who you're bringing in. You're bringing in 6 guys. Why does it need to be private?
And those are guys I wanted to hear from, too. Yeah, I mean, a lot of them, like, the Filipowski one today, which we'll talk about, I guess. But, it's just kind of generic interview, But I don't know, like, the Jalen Tyson one, I thought you got a good insight into his personality. You kind of saw, like, how he goes about his business and stuff like that. I mean, famously on this show, I critique, sorry, I don't want to throw you into that, the Shaden Sharp interview where he seemed to not know much about the Blazers situation or the NBA in general, and it just seemed kind of lost, and whether that was his agent did a horrible job of preparing him for those interviews, which I think was probably the case, or you really just don't know much about basketball, which would to me be kind of concerning. So like you can kind of get a sense of what it's like. I mean, I kind of think it's cool when someone comes in and is like, oh yeah, like Anthony Simons and Scoot and Ayton had a good thing going at times last year. They couldn't put it all together. So I'd like to come in and be that missing piece or something. Like I think it's fun when people like kind of know a little bit about our situation, whether they were just told that like 10 minutes before then, like or not. Like it's still kind of cool, and I like that. Whereas
let me just insert this. The Dylan Jones interview was awesome.
Right, yeah, exactly, and that makes me like want him a little more, you know.
Yeah.
Like I was like, he's undersized, you can't really play him, but like, man, that attitude he had and just the way he talked about the team was like, oh, okay, this guy's for real.
As long as your personality isn't undersized, we're good over here.
Right. And I mean, he's Weber State, so he probably followed the Blazers for a while a little closer than a lot of these prospects because of Dame. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's fun when you see a player, and it helps. It's not like a huge part of the process, but every little glimpse you get into these guys, like even just some of the like 5 seconds of video they show of each guy, like I don't know, it's just like part of the picture. It won't influence like major up and down on a draft board or anything like that, but it's just another part of the puzzle, and I like to have as much information as possible when talking about these prospects. And that interview or that workout on Tuesday that apparently happened, those are guys I wanted to hear from, man. Like even Zach Edey, obviously Tijan Salon, Ryan Dunn. Like I don't know. I just want to hear from those guys on what their mindset is.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Because otherwise it's like, okay, they worked out a bunch of players. There's not much to talk about, truly. Like, okay, they worked out a bunch of guys. It's only notable if the workouts are like really good or really bad or whatever. And normally you're not going to hear that about one team. You might hear that after a player has worked out with a bunch of teams, and you might hear, oh, he's really struggled in his workouts for multiple teams. But overall, it's just the interviews and like the clips, because as a content creator, I would like to be able to toss in clips of, if we draft one of these guys, I would like to toss in clips in their draft reaction video of them working out before the draft, just because it makes for a better video for you guys, right? But ultimately, like, they're working out a bunch of players. They worked out some more, like, second round, borderline undrafted guys today. Kyle Filipowski, Tristan Da Silva. Eric, I like Da Silva. I know he's older, but I get good vibes with Da Silva. And let me just say this. Somebody said I bet Tori liked his interview in the chat. I have not watched any of the interviews yet today. I'm going to do that after this. But as a player, I don't know, man. Tristan Da Silva just seems like he's going to be good.
I don't know. I don't think he might have said this in the interview too, but he said in another interview with another team that it was something about his shooting form and the way he went about shooting this last year. He didn't care as much about the results as he did trying to get his shot right for the NBA. And so he said it kind of affected some of his percentages a little bit, but he wanted to make sure he was improving his mechanics to help him at the next level. So that was kind of interesting. I don't know if that part of that's just trying to excuse maybe not the greatest shooting numbers at times this season, but yeah, I just thought the whole thought process was interesting.
Yeah, I've listened to him talk before, and I've just found him insightful, and I thought his interviews were really good. And I mean, with all that being said, he shot, what did he shoot from three this year? 39.5%. He shot 56% from two, 83.5% from the free throw line. He still shot the ball extremely well. And you're talking about a dude that easily has small forward size and could probably play some power forward. And at the power forward spot, I think he's like just quick enough to put the ball on the floor, make plays. And if he can shoot like that, 39%, he's going to be able to attack closeouts all day. and he's just an overall very smart, heady player. Like, I think he's going to be a good role player in this league, a really good role player. Is he a starter? I don't know, but I think he's at the very least a key bench piece for a good team. And yes, he's older, but he's one of the higher floor guys in this draft, in my opinion. He has a higher floor than a lot of guys that will get taken in the lottery, which I'm not saying he should go above guys like Ron Holland or Matas Buzelis, but he certainly has a higher floor than them. Those guys have higher ceilings, which is why they're going to get drafted higher, because you're swinging for upside.
Yeah.
But Da Silva, if you're looking for a safe pick, if you're looking for somebody that has a high floor that's going to come in and play a role, he's one of the best players in this draft for that.
Yeah, I think attacking closeouts, you're right. I think he's going to be really good. Shooting, he should be good. I'm a little worried about if he's got a quick enough burst to create off the dribble in an ISO situation or anything like that.
Is he going to be asked to ISO, though?
No, I'm not saying he is, but I mean, we do hold that against some of the higher prospects, so I think we have to.
You know why? I'll try and explain in my thinking, because I do hold that against some of the higher prospects. Like, if you have a lower floor, you have to have a high ceiling to then be justified being drafted in the top 10. In order to have a higher ceiling, you have to have that, like, on-ball creation ability, right? Safer guys, it's like, okay, he doesn't, in my opinion, have as high of a ceiling as guys where we're looking at their on-ball creation. So because of that, I view him more as a guy that's going to come in and play a role and like play off guys and just play in the flow, and is not going to be asked to do that. Now, if he could tap into that at all, then maybe he's one of the surprises that has like some sneaky upside because he's older, right? And there has been guys where it's like you don't expect them to create much, and then they come into the league and they're able to create on top of doing a bunch of other role player things well, and they become like really, really good because of that. Overall, like, I'm not going to hold him against that because I don't think he needs to do that stuff to be successful, where other guys, I think they either have to do that to be successful, or they have so many other question marks that's like, okay, they have to do something there to provide top 10, top 15 value.
Yeah, but for me, that's where the age thing comes into play, because at 19, he wasn't showing any of this stuff either, so...
But he's gotten a lot better.
No, I know, but what I'm saying is after his freshman year, he didn't play a whole lot, but, he shot sub 30% from three, right? So, like, you could make the same case. He's not a shooter. Like, if he would have just came out and it was all potential. So it's hard to judge necessarily some of these. I'm just having a tough time with these 23-year-olds, man, who have all these experience versus guys who I don't know. Like I said, if any of these 23-year-olds, if you would have said the same things after 1 year of college for any of them, you'd be insane, right?
Yeah, but like every draft, there's somebody that's older that comes out and is really, really good. Where if you, after being a multi-year pro, and if you go back and look at their freshman season, like they were nothing. Austin Reeves was like a 4-point per game scorer at Wichita State in 2017, and he was one of my sleepers. He ended up being really good. Some guys were JUCO players. Jimmy Butler as a freshman at Marquette, 5.6 points per game, 0.7 assists, did not make a single three in 35 games, playing 19 minutes a game, right? And played, that was his sophomore year, because I think he played JUCO his freshman year, so like he wasn't even D1, right? And then, there's guys like Dame where they were solid, but for a really small school, like, so I don't like looking at these guys that are 22 coming into the league and say, oh, but at 19 they weren't that good, because they're guys that can improve a ton in college. I feel like it's because they work really hard. So like, I'm willing to take a chance that despite them being older, they're going to come into the league, they're going to work really hard, and they're going to continue that rapid rate of improvement.
I'm looking at it the opposite way. I'm not saying that the 23-year-olds aren't good. I'm just looking at it more like the 19-year-olds. I'm trying to identify which ones have the skills to improve and have that work ethic to where when they're 23, we're talking about them as like a star level because they not only have the tools physically, but they have the work ethic and got there. So I'm trying to identify which one of the 19-year-olds, because I mean, I'm sure we can go back and draft and find a bunch of 21 to 23-year-olds that didn't pan out
Yeah.
as well. And same with when you draft an 18 or 19-year-old, you're going to have hits or misses all the time.
Yeah, I think there's a balance there, right? There's definitely a balance there. And somebody says, Tori, stop trying to make 23-year-olds happen. I mean, go look at the top 5 of my big board. It has Alex Sarr, Stephon Castle, Rob Dillingham, Ron Holland, and Matas Buzelis. And then I forget who I have at 6th, but it might be another freshman, right? Like, there's a reason for that. It's not like I have Tristan Silva at 3 because I'm just saying, oh, age doesn't matter coming into the draft. But when I go look at redrafts, it's like there's always a couple of guys that slid too much because they're older that if there was a redraft would go top 5. So it's always a goal of mine to try and identify those guys, and if I can, not hold the age thing against them too much while also finding the 19-year-olds that will actually tap into their upside. Because it's always easy to look at an 18 or 19-year-old and say, they got so much time, they have a bunch of upside because of how much time they have. But I mean, just look at DeAndre Ayton and how much upside he had coming into the league, and look how much he's improved. It's not a whole lot. So there's a balance there, and that's the struggle of scouting and evaluating prospects that are 18 on draft night compared to somebody that might be 23 on draft night. And there's certainly been a lot of older prospects that I've not held in a high regard before. I mean, Chris Murray last year is a good example of that, right? So it's just there's a tough balance to strike there. I always try and have my big board look as good in a redraft in the future as possible, and in every redraft there's always somebody that slips because they're older, so I always try to identify that on top of the young guys.
Yeah, to me, I know you're going to disagree with this, but I am okay with swings and misses more so than, oh, hey, I found a good role player, but I potentially passed up on someone who was maybe they only have a 30% chance of being a star or a fringe all-star level player, but I'd rather take the chances like that in Portland's situation right now than if I was guaranteed to have like a 6th or 7th man type guy. And I'm not saying like De Silva is or not. I'm just, that's kind of just, I don't know. Like, even if I fail or miss, I still like the chance as long as it's based on some sort of skill set that you think can pan out over a 23-year-old.
I just feel like the chance that some of these older prospects in the past become stars gets downplayed a little bit too much. Because we see guys like Jalen Brunson, we see guys like Jimmy Butler, we see, there's a few other names that if you gave me time I could list off, but you can find them. There's a lot of guys that came into the league at the age of 22, 23, were only thought to be role players and then somehow ended up becoming stars. So I think that's been a mistake of GMs in the past, is they've underrated the chance and underrated the overall upside of some of these older prospects, and that's how you get Jalen Brunson going in the second round, and now he's arguably a top 15 player in the league and led a team to almost a conference finals. So,
yeah, I mean, Jalen Brunson, a little bit of that was his size, and I mean, I don't know how so many teams missed on Jimmy. I don't think he was super old when he was drafted, was he?
He spent a year at a JUCO and then 3 years at D1, so he had to be like 22, 23 or something.
Yeah, and there's guys like Middleton, stuff like that, and they've all had good long careers.
Jimmy Butler was almost 23 when he got drafted. Or no, he got drafted in 2011, so he was almost Almost 22.
22.
He made his debut on January 1st, 2012. That's what I was looking at. He's drafted 2011. So he was a little bit younger. He was a little bit younger. But how many years did Kawhi play in college? Kawhi he played 2 years. Paul George played 2 years. Dame played 4 years, right? He's a perfect example of a guy that was an older prospect. And that's why I wonder, it's like, okay, if it was that draft now, what would the conversations around Dame be? The thing is, I think you were on board with Dame, and I was 100% on board with Dame, but he was already, 22 when he was drafted? Ended up being a top 75 player of all time.
But we already had a guy like LaMarcus who had been in the league for, 6 years. As our building block. That team is. I mean, we needed a center as well. I know they drafted one that year. Who a lot of people are comparing Filipowski's workout, said he looked like Myers Leonard today. But we desperately needed a point guard, and it didn't. I don't think it necessarily had to be a young one. I don't know if a young 19-year-old would have worked necessarily on that team. So I don't know. I think that was the right situation for a player like Dame who was a little older. We talked about seeing people in Blazers uniforms and looking back on them. It's kind of funny. The Kings still have it on YouTube. You can go watch Dame's workout with them. And they had the pick before ours in 2012 and took Thomas Robinson over Dame when Dame killed it in the workout. I don't know, man. So yeah, they took the younger player with higher upside and physical tools or whatever. But yeah, so obviously there's a lot of nuance to it. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
sorry, go ahead.
I do agree that most of these older guys like De Silva, Connect, those are guys who I think can help teams win right away. Klingon, even though he's only he's 20 or 21, so those kind of guys I think can come in and help a team, and it'll look really good if you're talking about in a redraft, because those guys will have the thing. Jaquez will always have this, no matter how he plays in future years. People were like, wow, this guy's overperforming expectations. So instead of a guy like Scoot, who it's going to be hard for Scoot moving forward from a national perspective to get over the poor first season he had, and he's going to have to play extra good in the coming couple of years to try and shed some of the labels he got in his first year. So some of these guys, I think, do have the advantage of, one, they're a lot more ready to play and step in and help teams win, and two, the expectations being so much lower on them. I mean, like you said, there's some fantastic players, so it's not like they're not good or anything. I'm just saying, no one was expecting Jaquez to be first team all rookie this year, and so when he does play at that level and is at time was the third best rookie in the NBA, there's a lot of just kind of hype around that.
Yeah. I will say part of what might help the overall upside of an older prospect is that they are good enough to get minutes and therefore starts gaining NBA experience right away, where some younger guys might sit on a bench and might not be ready to start accumulating NBA experience. Also, I think a lot of these guys, they start off in college, they're role players, and they have to learn how to work their ass off, and they work their ass off to improve as much as they do over college. They develop that habit, whereas if you just have a naturally gifted 5-star future top 5 pick. Like, do they know how to work as hard as the guy that had to get it out the mud? Also, I think there's, when you're a role player in college and you kind of grow into a star, you learn some nuance to the game that you might miss if you're just somebody that just goes and gets buckets as a 5-star prospect, right? Like, so I think there's something to be said about older players' paths and maybe a reason why a lot of guys go undrafted. I mean, just one final example I wanted to throw out there. The greatest dynasty of the last 15 years was founded off 3 future Hall of Famers. Steph Curry was a 3-year college player who went 7th behind a guy like Johnny Flynn, who I believe was a freshman, right? And then you got Klay Thompson, who went like 11th, 12th, and he was a 3-year college player. And then you got Draymond Green, who was a 4-year college player who went in the 2nd round. So, Chris Middleton's another example of a guy that spent some time in college and ended up being a 2nd-round pick and turned into a star. So there's just enough examples out there that that's why I feel the way I do on the whole age thing.
You know what I think it is? So if you're 19, you have to kind of guess as to their work ethic and if they'll learn how to work. Like, someone could have the greatest work ethic ever, but if they're not working on like the right skills to be good, that could come into play as well. Whereas these 23-year-olds who have had major jumps, you mentioned some of their poor rookie years or freshman years in college, they obviously have good work ethic. And it doesn't always pan out, because that was one of the few things I was kind of banking on when I didn't like Chris Murray for the Blazers, but just in terms of overall draft prospects, I did like how big of a jump he took when he got the role of being the number 1 guy on a team. And to me, that shows that you do have some sort of good work ethic. And we've seen a lot of players like that. So I think the difference is the 23-year-olds, what their work ethic has been like to get to that point, because you see it pan out. Whereas if you draft a young guy, it could be anywhere. If they have a good work ethic and they're young, now you hit something, right? If they don't have a good work ethic, they're probably gonna flame out or never live up to expectations. So I think that's it. The 23-year-old guys, you can see who's made jumps, who's made improvements in areas that will help them at the next level, and you have no idea with some of the younger guys. You're muted.
I said, yeah. It's an interesting conversation. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this conversation. It's an interesting debate. I just don't like limiting guys too much because of age, because I think that's just a mistake that's happened with GMs in the past, passing on guys who ended up becoming sometimes future Hall of Famers, top 75 players of all time, I mean, the reason we got Dame is because Thomas Robinson was taken before him, and he showed not much skill in college at all, but he was a freshman, so okay, maybe he could develop some off the dribble game and a jumper and this and that, and look how athletic he is at 6'8", and I mean, he was nothing. We got a top 75 player of all time because Sacramento made that mistake, and Sacramento made that mistake with a lot of players, with a lot of guys, and they just had bad luck or weren't able to identify the right young players that would turn into something. But it was just an example. So Tristan da Silva, I don't think he's going to become a star. I don't think he has the creation or the passing to become a star. Like, the reason Draymond became a star was because elite defender, elite passer in a system that fit him perfectly. So a lot of things went right for Draymond. But if it's an older player that has something that might make them elite at the next level, then that's intriguing to me. And especially if they're an older player that can defend. Because Kawhi, multi-year college player, 2-year college player, he could defend though. Paul George could defend though. Chris Middleton can defend. Jimmy Butler can defend. right? Draymond Green can defend. So that's something to look at maybe with some of these older players is like which ones could become elite defenders. I mean, you can even go down to like some players that become really good role players. Herb Jones, he defends.
Mm-hmm.
So there's always players that, flame out. They can play defense but don't do enough offensively, or maybe their defense just isn't as good at the NBA level as you expect. So there's always a wide spectrum, but that is something I've noticed with a lot of older players that maybe were underdrafted is they can defend on top of being able to do something really well offensively too.
Yeah, and I think that's why I've been hesitant to put Connect and De Silva higher, despite their offensive skill set. I'm having trouble seeing them be anything more than at best neutral defenders at the next level, just kind of smart positional defenders. I don't think either of them have extremely good lateral quickness to become good defenders, and they're both playing positions where I think you need that. So that's where I kind of struggle with those guys and don't have, but I mean, you can't deny their offensive skill sets.
Yeah, I mean, Connect much higher than De Silva for me because he has potential to be like an elite 3-level scorer, which is really intriguing to me. He has to become better as a passer. He has some things he has to improve on, but with the way he can shoot the ball, and I think he's just quick enough, and hopefully can be just skilled enough as a creator to be able to turn the corner on drives, and he's not a bad leaper at all. Like, he can get up, and he had some impressive finishes last year. I could just see him being just a lights out scorer at the next level despite his age, and maybe it takes a couple years to truly get there with like really good efficiency, but I don't know. Like, if I had to rank players based on their likelihood to become an all-star, Connect is certainly in my top 10. He might be in my top 5.
See, this is where I don't know. For me, the Blazers, I mean, obviously he'd have a role and get playing time, especially if he plays a lot of minutes at the small forward. But like, you're someone who doesn't or still needs to improve passing, and maybe has question marks on defense. I think it's tough to warrant taking that over someone who could possibly be all the above.
But the likelihood of Connect improving his passing a little bit and being a little better defensively. And I don't think Connect was like terrible defensively last year at Tennessee. I think the likelihood of that versus somebody that's really far away in a bunch of areas, like getting there in all those areas, I mean, what's more likely?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I think Connect seems like Grizzlies, a team that maybe isn't as bad as they were last year. I think the Spurs, when you have Wemby, I don't know if they're interested in Connect at all, but Wemby can change the dynamic of any kind of team defense. I think he showed the capability of doing that last year when he, as a rookie, he's fringe defensive player of the year. But outside of that, I'd be a little hesitant to take a player like that super high, and that's why, I mean, even if he is a fringe all-star, I don't know if I would take that over someone who is potentially has a higher ceiling. Now, the problem with that theory in this draft is you could argue that there aren't one of those guys that's worth taking over him. So maybe that's why, he becomes in the conversation at 7 again. And I think that's the only reason why I wouldn't be super pissed if we took him at 7. I still think in the Blazers situation, you swing for not safe. And I know we're going to get into that conversation when we talk about Klingon in a minute. But I don't know. I just feel like this isn't the time to do the safest best thing. It's just to swing for as high of a fence as you can.
Yeah, I'm just starting to really feel like this is the wrong draft to do that. You know,
Yeah.
it's if this was a normal draft, yes. If there was a Shaden Sharp sitting there at 7, yes, right? But that's kind of what I came to the realization of, because I was saying, oh yeah, you swing for upside in the top 10. You just swing for overall upside, overall ceiling, right? You just want to maximize the ceiling of the team. Yeah. I was saying that earlier in the season, but I came to the realization I cannot try and approach a much different draft as if it's the same as other drafts, because it is different. Where there's so many red flags with all these players, and their upside is so much more like theoretical instead of something where it's like, okay, I see the upside. It's more so like I'm imagining the upside with some of these guys is how I feel about it. So in a draft like this, it becomes different. And I've had to change kind of the way I think about this particular draft. And it's like, if there were other drafts like this ahead of it, then that might change how I feel about this draft. But for a team like Portland or a team in rebuild mode, the high upside future stars are coming. They're coming. So does it make more sense to take a chance on a guy with a bunch of red flags that might never become anything, and then next year you're going to draft somebody that might play ahead of them because they're just a much better prospect with a bunch more upside? If that's the case, I would rather take the safe pick that, could at least play off those guys and play a role off those guys, and maybe might have some upside in their own right despite their age, like a Connect. So that's kind of how I'm focusing on this with a loaded 2025 draft around the corner.
But if Connect's really good right away, doesn't he potentially hurt your chances of getting those guys in the future?
I mean, if he's carrying this disastrous Blazer team to 10 extra wins, you know what I mean? Then we're probably in pretty good shape, because he's probably already an all-star as a rookie.
I just think like the high upside guys, even if they're a bust, would help you get guaranteed that you're bad next year.
I just think it's no offense, I just think it's silly to like worry about a rookie making you too good to draft high next year.
I'm not saying I'm worried about it. I'm just saying I think Connect helps you more right away. Like I'm not saying 10 wins or anything, but I mean, we've seen in the past few years the difference between just a couple wins being, a first overall pick versus, seventh where we are.
And we've also seen the 10th worst team get the number 1 pick.
Yeah.
And the 9th worst team get, what was it? The 3rd overall pick? Well, Brooklyn didn't get their pick. It went to Houston. But like this last year's lottery, we saw absolute chaos. 10th worst odds moved up to 1. So with the lottery too, it's like, yes, I want to maximize odds, but if your odds are a little bit worse because you have maybe a rookie of the year, if he's changing a record that much, then I will absolutely take that trade-off.
Fair enough.
I also think like next year's draft, like this year's draft, there's not much difference between like 1 and 7. Okay, I like Sar, so maybe let's say 2 and 7. Next year's draft, like Cooper Flagg is the prize. Ace Bailey is really good, but like you're going to be able to get somebody at 7 that has future all-star potential, in my opinion. Like there's not much difference between 2 and 7 in next year's draft in terms of the guys that go 2 to 7. I would take them all over everyone in this class except maybe Alex Sar. But I watch Traore, I watch Ace Bailey, I watch Hugo Gonzalez, and it's like, man, I might like them more than Sar. Especially because they're a year younger too, right? So it's, you expect them to look a little better. I mean, if they're in this draft, especially with teams apparently not liking Sar as much as us, Eric, I think there's like a ton of guys in next year's draft that would be in the conversation for 1 right now. I don't think Klingon is anywhere close to the conversation for number 1 in next year's draft.
No.
The reason why Klingon is in conversation for number 1, do you want to talk about that now or you want to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about it now.
Yeah. the reason he's in conversation for number one is because GMs don't want to be fired for drafting the wrong guy at number one, a la Anthony Bennett. Cleveland, in the bad 2013 draft, went with Anthony Bennett, and it was terrible. It was horrible. They took a swing and missed massively. And if you're a GM and you want your job secure, you need to get something with the number one overall pick. And a guy like Donovan Clingan is about as safe of a pick as possible in terms of like he's going to be a role player. And that pick, to me, if Atlanta takes him number one, it's a pick where it's like, okay, I can make this pick and I'm going to keep my job. Whereas if I take a guy like Alex Sarr has red flags. Ron Holland has red flags. Buzelis has red flags. Rob Dillingham has red flags. All these players that we might have above Clingan because of their overall upside, it's riskier, and it's riskier for these general managers' jobs. That, in my opinion, is the only reason why Donovan Clingan is in conversations for the number one overall pick. And I understand it. It's not even like I can sit here and say I disagree with a GM trying to make the pick that helps them keep their job as a GM. Because I fully understand it.
Well, I think the Hawks are a weird situation because they're kind of like the Raptors, and maybe you can throw us in that mix too, where, it's like, what are you doing? Are you going to retool, rebuild? Are you going to try to win with the players you have still or what? So I think for them, the safer pick makes sense because after a couple years of what's happened there, ever since making the Eastern Conference Finals, they took a huge swing on DeJounte that has been horrendous. And then they didn't move him last year when they probably could have gotten some value for him. And maybe they can still get value for him this summer. And then what do you do with trade? Do you try to keep him happy, or you just trade him and start over?
Oh, you trade him, you trade DeJounte.
And if you do that, you take Sarr and you don't worry about playing safe because you're rebuilding, right? And you're going to be terrible next year. So you have Sarr, and then you get one of those forwards next year. You're really cooking and onto something, right?
Here's the thing, though. Who knows what their ownership wants? Because a lot of ownership groups aren't necessarily basketball people or think about the draft the way we do. So,
but that's what I'm saying. I think that's why Atlanta's in a unique situation where they might just try to win now and play it safe. So that could happen. Now, Washington at 2, if they take Clingan, they are dumb. They're stupid. Right? That makes no sense to play it safe. They have a new
he's
GM
a really
group.
good fit there, but
you're just playing. They just got new front office people last year. I think you can argue you're still trying to clean up the previous GM's mess, as we've seen here in Portland. That'd be an excuse. And maybe there's a little bit more patience. I don't know how much patience they have with their new GM and all that kind of stuff, but I just think they're in a situation where they need to take swings and stuff, and I don't know if Clingan is the best player for them. But a lot of other teams after them, I think Klingan's fine for. That one particular team and us, I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. It actually makes more sense for Washington than us because we still have DeAndre Ayton at the end of the day,
Yeah. Yeah, if they draft Clingan to move off Ayton, do I hate it?
No, if
I don't hate it. I'm still not a Clingan, or I'm still not a Ayton fan like other people are.
Absolutely. It's just they've kind of, I don't know. They could get something. I'd be surprised if they traded Ayton this summer. Maybe they capitalize on his last couple months of the season not believing in him. Like, we don't necessarily believe that's like going to be just who he is moving forward. So yeah, I would definitely take that if that was the trade-off, I guess. I just find it hard to believe with how much they have propped him up and how much like people were taking victory laps over us at the end of last season about, see, you guys just needed to wait till Aiden got comfortable in a new bed and all that kind of stuff. It would seem weird if their whole offseason then hinged on moving him out and going with a younger player. So I don't know. And it's not like a player that has, I know he's not like a liability on offense, Klingon, but it just seems kind of weird to go from Ayton, who's, you know, probably a little below average defensively as a center, but, you know, decent offensively, to someone who's, you know, average offensively to, you know, a little above average defensively. So you're like trading a little bit of defense for offense, I guess. But as you've pointed out, our offense wasn't good last year. So do we necessarily need to do that kind of thing at the center spot, especially one that's not really, I mean, even if he is somewhat capable of playing other schemes than drop, it's probably not like super effective. So I find it kind of weird if this Klingon stuff is all true. Just why, and why are we putting all our eggs into that basket?
Yeah. I'm kind of viewing it a little bit like this year's draft in general, and this kind of applies to Klingon. The Blazers, okay, let me start like this. The league has placed more value on role players. You see role players getting the job done for Boston. You saw role players get the job done for Minnesota, for Indiana, right? Like, role players feel more important now than they did 5-10 years ago. Okay? But still, you need a top 20-ish player. The Blazers are going to need a top 20-ish player. I feel like it's extremely unlikely that they get a top 20-ish player from the 7th overall pick. I feel like in order to get their top 20-ish player, they either need Scoot or Sharp to become that, or they need to get that in next year's, or maybe the year after draft, right? 2025, 2026 draft. And if they really strike out, then you better hope Milwaukee sucks in 2028, 2029. With the increased emphasis on role players, if you feel like it's very, very unlikely that you get a top 20-ish player from the 7th overall pick, does it make more sense to maybe get somebody that you're very confident fits well long-term and is a good role player? That's the debate I kind of have in my head. And I'm not the biggest Klingon fan, but that's like the justification for taking him.
Okay, agreed. If you get him at 7, I can see that.
Don't trade up for him.
if we trade up for him, it needs to be you think he's a top 10 center or something in this league moving forward, and that's the only justification in my mind. I agree. If like 7 and 14, that's their philosophy. Just get the best player that can fit when we eventually find the stars. Sure, I can justify that, but I can't justify them giving up assets or moving up in this draft unless it's just like, I mean, if it's like Brogdon and 14 for 3 or something, like I'll take it. Like, fine. But like, if they trade like 7 and 14 to get 3 or something like that and get Klingon, I don't understand that mindset if that's true what you're saying, that they're trying to find elite role players and stuff like that. Because I don't think you waste assets to get that. Like you mentioned, those type of players fall in the draft for various reasons in the past. So you can identify those, and we should be able to get a guy like De Silva at 14 easily. Like, I don't think there's any way he's not on the board.
Yeah.
And if he is, or if he does get taken, that means that potentially someone else could fall. But
yeah, I think OKC at 12 is intriguing for De Silva.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's a good one.
OKC is like the wild card in this lottery. Like, they could reach on a multi-year college player, and it ends up paying off for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like Deron Holmes, Tristan De Silva. Also, if they want to swing for upside with a guy that can shoot and like play the three, Keyshawn George, who's like kind of slipping down draft boards to the late first, but like I still think 12 might be a landing spot for Keyshawn George. That OKC pick at 12 is going to be super fascinating to watch. It's also funny because I mocked them to get Klingon in like a previous mock draft, and some OKC fan was like, that makes no sense. Why would they ever want to go for Klingon? And now Klingon's like, he might be the number one pick, and there's rumors about OKC wanting to trade up for him. It's always funny, the comments on my mock draft videos. But
I don't think it's true, but if they take Deron Holmes at 12, I mean, that's the same type of player. It just kind of fits a winning type team.
I do worry a little bit about their lack of physicality with him and Chet up front, but I do like that he could play the 4. Like 4-5. Like, they're interchangeable power forward setter types. It's just two bigs that can do a little bit of everything. And Chet can be the rim protector defensively, right? Block some shots. You wouldn't have to rely on Holmes to do that if they play together. So I like Holmes to OKC. I like a lot of guys to OKC simply because it's pretty easy to fit in a lot of players there. Like, the perfect player next to Mogbo is Wemby. The next best player next to Mogbo, in my opinion, is Chet. Could you imagine Mogbo and Chet? They complement each other perfectly. Mogbo's the 5, Chet's the 4. Defensively, that's terrific. Mogbo can pass, can even like maybe handle in some pick and roll. So can Chet. Like, you got an intriguing duo there. I don't know if Mogbo will be good enough to be like starter material on a good team like that, but it's intriguing. I think 12's a little too high for him, but there's a lot of intriguing fits with OKC because of a guy like Chet. Because he can shoot and protect the rim and slide his feet, and that's why it was so funny when people were like, I wouldn't draft Chet with a 2nd-round pick, Gonzaga bust, blah, 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 blah. Ridiculous. But back on topic, somebody says, I forget where the comment went. It was basically trading up for Reese Shea. Trading up for Reese Shea, I feel like, is kind of like trading up for Klingon. It's trading up for the safe pick that doesn't have much upside. I don't like that for Portland.
Yeah, I'd rather just... Because, I mean, it looks like Atlanta and San Antonio, apparently San Antonio wants Shea and are trying to get up to 1 to get him.
It's funny because I had them trading up from 4 to 2, and I had Spurs fans said they won't trade up for Reese Shea. The mock draft comments drive me crazy, bro.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how you get Reese Shea, because there's still a chance Atlanta takes him. If they take Klingon, I think San Antonio moves up to 2 or 3 to get him, like you had. So yeah, it's I don't know how you get Reese Shea in this situation. Even if you did think he was worth that jump up.
Yeah.
But to me, okay, so if you want to say Reese Shea is the best shooter in this draft, like, I don't agree.
Reed Shepard's a better shooter.
I don't agree, but like, let's just say you truly felt Reese Shea was going to be the best shooter in this draft. Like, he's the next Klay Thompson, let's say. I don't know if his shooting is that much of a difference maker to just stay at 7 and take Connect, like
Yeah.
I don't know. It depends on what we gave up, I guess. I just I think if Klingon goes 1, we obviously have no chance of getting him, just like with Sar. If Klingon falls to like 3 or 4 or whatever, I think we have a chance to go up and get him if that's what they really want to do. With Ricochet, it sounds like there's too many teams that would just love to have him, to where we'd have to give up a premium to get in a position to get him. And I'd have a tough time giving up what we'd have to give up to do that. Because I don't really see him falling past 3 at the worst.
Yeah, true. Agree. Right now, I'm just envisioning, like, when we draft Connect, me being... Like, I'm not sold at all on Connect at 7, but I would be excited. Because he's fun, and he can shoot, and, like, if we draft Connect at 7, I just picture myself, like, I'll be excited, and I don't know how you will react.
Yeah.
You'll probably be like, okay, and I'll be like, bang, let's go. Got Dalton Connect, man. Well, that dude freaking stud last year. Oh, man.
Yeah, absolutely. He was really good at Tennessee. He was good before that as well. And I have 13 more days to let that sink in as my expectation. So maybe I won't be as mad as yeah. So yeah, I don't think I'll be too bad.
We got John Smith in chat. Okay, what potential wing is in the next draft better than Ricochet? There is probably 5 wings with higher upside in next year's draft than Ricochet. Hugo, Ace Bailey, Cooper Flagg. There's also some lesser known players that I thought looked good, and you're gonna have somebody like a Brandon Miller maybe come out of nowhere. That always happens. Right now I can name 3, and it could be as many as 5, 6. I'm very confident in those 3 being much better NBA players long term than Ricochet. I'm the Hugo Gonzalez truther, by the way. I love Hugo Gonzalez. Anyway, let's move on. Eric, we have not talked about Terrence Shannon Jr. because... So, how do I even go about this? It's a tough conversation to talk about, something like this. He was charged with rape, went on trial today. I recommend you look into the details of this entire thing, but based on all the details in this entire thing, he's innocent. I don't know if I should say in my opinion, but he's innocent. We had not put him on draft boards or drafted him in mock drafts because we wanted to let the legal thing play out and see the evidence on both sides. The evidence is one-sided and it's in Terrence Shannon Jr.'s favor. Okay? And without having all of it listed in front of me, I don't want to start trying to paraphrase it or even talk about it because it is a sensitive subject. But he's going to end up on our big boards. He should be a first-round pick, in my opinion. Eric, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I had him. I put him at the end of my rankings just so I didn't forget about him or whatever. But obviously, this guy got suspended for at least 6 games from Illinois, and so that looks like that was BS. He's faced every single opposing arena, no means no chance, and different things. He's been, I don't know what the right word is, banned from any of these draft things because of his looming trial coming up. So he hasn't gotten the same benefits of the process of that a lot of these other prospects have gotten because of this looming. And so for those that don't know, during the trial, the defense presented text messages from the accuser or the victim or alleged victim, basically showing that it was a money grab and that she made it up. So just a really terrible situation. It's one of those things where you always want to be respectful because there's always victims in these situations that are just afraid to come forward, especially when it's a high-profile person that's doing the assaulting or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's very tricky because you don't want to ever discredit someone or anything like that. But when it comes out that you falsified accusations and almost completely ruined this man's career, there's got to be some sort of penalty for doing that as well. So hopefully some justice is served in that direction, but unfortunately for Terrence Shannon Jr., you can't take away what he's gone through in the several months leading up to that. So I don't think it should still affect him, but I mean, who knows where it'll be at this process. This is a guy who, despite all that, had an insanely good year.
23 points per game, 4 rebounds, 2.3 assists, shot 47% from the field, 36% from three, and just like when you watched him, just powerful, quick, great finisher. Like, he was good, man. He was good last year. He took a leap because he's a 5-year guy, but he took a leap going into year 5 that I did not expect. Because we talked about him in the past, like here and there, because he's been a pretty big-time college player. He took a jump last year. He was freaking, like, eye test guy for me.
Right, and so he's kind of tested the draft waters in the past couple drafts, and so he's been on radars and drafts, and I think both of us had him. I think a couple years ago I had him as like a fringe into draft guy, and then last year I was a little disappointed in him, but I still thought he was, in that range, fringe second rounder. This year, just completely different story. I mean, this guy looked like a legit star, and the way he plays, I don't see how it can't translate to the NBA. So I don't know where I'm going to put him.
Is he going to be your highest non-freshman?
He might be. Yeah, he might be, because like just the creation. And another thing, I don't know how many, maybe you can find this out real quick, how many free throws a game he shot, but it seemed like he got to the line a ton.
Or no, 8.6. 8.6 free throws a game last year.
That's really good for a non-point guard. So, yeah, like that guy can create, he can score, he can shoot off the dribble. He's powerful and physical, like you said. And he's a guy I think can step right in and be a legit player in the NBA right away. I don't know. He's still kind of older, so I don't know about that. But unlike some of these other guys like Connect and De Silva, I think he could possibly be that guy who is good on both ends and can be like a starting shooting guard on a lot of different teams.
Yeah. So just looking at my big board, I'm tempted to slot him in at 12. Below Tyson and Ricochet, above Cody Williams. But I think he's in that conversation.
Yeah.
Truthfully. And you can make a case for him being above Jalen Tyson. I think the question mark with Terrence Shannon is he a below-average three-point shooter at the NBA level? Because he shot 34.7% in college. Shot 36% last year, but the year before, 32%. He was a 79% free throw shooter. I think he'll be fine as a shooter, but it is a little bit of a question. Whereas it's not as much of a question with Jalen Tyson, and it's certainly not as much of a question with Dalton Connect. And with a guy like him, it's like he's a powerful driver, but if you defensively can give him a gap at the NBA level because he's not the best shooter, then he might struggle. Because he's not much of like a passer. He's just a straight up bucket getter. But if he can shoot the 3-ball, then he'll be able to blow by guys. He'll be a 3-level guy and be a guy that could average 20 a game easily at some point in the NBA. So I think that's just the question with him, which is why I would put him below Connect. But
he's 6'5" 3/4 without shoes, 6'8" 3/4 wingspan, 8'4" standing reach.
yeah, a little lower than I thought. He's a 2-guard though, but he plays like strong and big, and he's legit. So I hate false allegations. I am glad the justice system did its job, and he's going to be able to have an NBA career. Before we move on to the next topic, shout out to Carter Dick. $100 donation from Carter. Thank you, Carter. Appreciate you, bro. He says, wasn't able to donate much this year because I was broke in college. Haha. Thank you guys for all the great content. I literally watched every stream this year. You're a real one, Carter. Appreciate you, bro. I'm glad you're not completely broke anymore because you're donating the $100, which means a ton. And, hopefully you're good, man. Hopefully you've been doing well. Thank you.
Where do you go to school, Carter? Are you done now, or are you just off for the summer, or what? Thanks for the donation.
Yep. Appreciate you, bro. Truly, truly means a lot to get that donation. Anyway, let's move on. Blazers trading up, Eric. Do you have the report on hand?
There's battle on whether this is legit info or not, because it comes from Kevin O'Connor.
And it's Kevin O'Connor versus Sean Hyken.
And Evans, is it Siddery or Sidery? I don't know how to say his last name.
Yeah, that guy's fine. That guy's cool.
Yeah. So
y'all wouldn't believe like stuff like this on Twitter. I can't even say anything. Never mind. Go ahead, Eric.
Yeah. So apparently, it's been no secret out there that every time one of these reports come up about teams interested in moving up in the draft, the Blazers are almost always mentioned. They've been specifically mentioned as wanting to move up for Donovan Clingan. So those were all that's been a rumor we've talked about moving up. But the thing this time was that Portland was not necessarily trying to move up from 7. They were trying to move up from 14 and move up into the top 10 and have 2 potential top 10 picks to take 2 players in the top 10, obviously. So yeah, I don't know how much you put in Kevin O'Connor. He's been one of the guys who was given the most intel through this process the last couple weeks, because Woj and Shams are too busy patting themselves on the back for the Lakers reporting coaching search that they haven't really spent a ton of time with these kind of rumors. So apparently, and then he threw out some really stupid trade idea where it was Simon 7 and 14 for the 3rd pick to Houston, which made no sense to me.
Let's go.
Yeah. And if we do something like that, we're cooked. But
I think even the Cronin chills would have an issue with Cronin for that.
I think there was one guy in chat who wanted to do that, but
basically there's people that hate Anthony Simons so much for some reason that they would do that trade. And it doesn't come out of like, oh, this would be good for us. It's like, get Anthony Simons off my team. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it either. So Blazers, what do you think if if they moved up from 14 and kept 7, and it was, I don't know, because like you said, if they are in a position to get Klingon, you'd think that Aiton has to be a part of some sort of trade. So I don't know if they're trying to move Aiton in 14 to move up, or if they're trying to move Grant in 14 or Brogdon in 14, which I don't think would get them up too much. But yeah, I don't know.
I would be down to move up even like 3 spots because I think 11, 12, 13 range, you're probably going to see Cody Williams taken. I mean, he could still go top 10, and there was even a rumor that, like, he might go top 5 still, this draft, no consensus, right? But, like, Ron Holland, like, you're going to get a Ron Holland or a Cody Williams or a T-John Salon or maybe even a Buzelis if you move up to 11 or 12. At 14, you might not be able to get any of those guys.
Right.
So, like, if Memphis can't trade up for Klingon, are they willing to trade down from 9? That's something I would target. Maybe that might be, like, one of the teams that holds a little bit of value for Robert Williams at 3rd because they're looking for a center, right? And at 14, like, if they want to draft a center, there's probably still going to be able to, Khalil Ware might be there. Like, they could maybe take a center there as well and have Ware and Robert Williams. Might make sense. You might have to attach some seconds, but like maybe you can trade up to 9. Utah at 10. Like, I don't know exactly what they trade to give to move up in that scenario, but I would definitely explore that 1,000%. Because if you could get Cody Williams as your second pick, Eric, I like that. I've soured on him a bit, but if you can get him as your second pick, I like that. If you can get Salon as your second pick, I like that. I just feel like those guys are going to be off the board before 14.
So if you could do 14 and Robert Williams for 9, you're taking that trade?
Oh, 100%. I had it in my... So in order to stay below the apron to like do that trade, because Memphis has a trade exception big enough to absorb Robert Williams, they could trade back Derrick Rose. I had this in my latest mock draft. I actually really like Derrick Rose as a vet mentor who doesn't have to play for Scoot. Because Derrick Rose was like athleticism, struggled with his jump shot, lost all his athleticism, and still somehow made it in the NBA. Found a way to still be productive in the NBA. Like, I think that's a good example of a vet mentor that doesn't have to be paid or played as much as Malcolm Brogdon. So if you can get like Derrick Rose back, you save $9 million, you deduct the tax. Maybe I would even attach a couple seconds onto that. If it was like 14 Robert Williams in a couple seconds, and you get back 9 in Derrick Rose, you get a vet mentor point guard to replace Brogdon that doesn't have to play. You deduct the tax, you get up to 9. Like, it's a very clean trade for us, in my opinion. I don't know if Memphis would do it, but
yeah, I think that's the type of trade Cronin is hoping for to save his butt this summer. And it's unfortunate that Robert Williams only has the value of maybe moving up 5 spots in the middle of the draft. I mean, it'd be different if it was like 7-2 or something. But yeah, I think I'd be fine with that. Just, I normally wouldn't. I think that's selling low on Williams, but the fact that that does clear enough salary, and then we're going to get all these people, see, told you it was easy to duck that. But you do pay the 9th pick a little more than the 14th pick, and like you said, you do have to take on a smaller salary, so it's maybe not as much saving as they were hoping to get. But it's actually maybe pretty close to the tax still, so I don't know.
Yeah. So maybe we'll discuss a few more opportunities in the future, like the details of what that might look like. I haven't really thought about it too much outside that Memphis scenario, but like
I'd also do 14 and Thibault for 9 as well.
Oh, I mean, freaking heartbeat. I don't think Thibault has any value, but if he does like that, oh, hell yeah. And just take back Derrick Rose to keep them below the apron to do that trade, because I think they'd have to stay below the apron to do that trade. What other draft rumors have you heard? Because I heard a couple today, but I don't have them like at my fingertips. There's one with Cody Williams potentially still going in the top 5, which I'm not surprised by.
There's a rumor. People are speculating it's either San Antonio at 4 if they aren't able to trade up, or Detroit is someone that obviously has a new person in charge of. He's technically their president of basketball operations, Trajan Langdon, but Troy Weaver is now gone. So could they possibly be interested in Cody Williams? That might be something that Detroit does. But yeah, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing him going top 3 with how much buzz there is with Klingon and Richeche in particular. I don't know if the draft stays the same way, maybe, I guess, but I have a feeling if Klingon's there at 3 or 4, one of the teams is going to move up to get him. So I don't see him falling anymore. Like I see some people in chat saying just take Klingon at 7. There's too much buzz about Klingon going at the top of this draft for him to fall. Mm-hmm. Like six spots now, you have to fall. So,
all the conversations we've had today is why I love this draft and am completely fascinated by it. It's going to be so much fun to look back on it 5 years from now.
Right. Yeah, it's just, I don't. I'm trying to remember any other rumors, but I think unless you're, we know someone who loves Cody Williams and thinks he's still like the top prospect in this draft. I thought pretty highly of him most of the year. He's one of those guys who just isn't aggressive enough to me. And maybe you could say a little bit of that was the injury, but he just, between his lack of willingness to shoot the 3 at times and his just kind of, there's like lots of moments this year, even before the injury, where he just kind of deferred, and maybe that's because he had two really good players in Simpson and De Silva that monopolized the ball, so you could easily explain that away. A freshman has a tough time just like taking over those 2 players who are both excellent this year. But
he has a lot of question marks.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm one of those teams, if I'm taking him that high over some of the other players. But at the same time, in this draft, I don't really think it's like that bad of a play.
No, not at all, not at all. And then Khalil Ware is generating buzz to potentially be drafted in the lottery. And that rumor was from Jonathan Wasserman, lead scout, NBA Draft Insider for Bleacher Report. And where do you think the ceiling is for Khalil Ware real quick? I want to see if it's the same spot as me.
For
where he gets drafted.
I think it's I could maybe see Memphis at 9, so I can't necessarily say this is the ceiling, but I think it's more like 11 Bulls. I
was going to confidently say Memphis at 9 if Klingon's off the board.
Yeah.
Because they need a big. They also need shooting. I don't know if Khalil Ware is going to be a shooter at the next level. It's a question mark. But he's big, athletic, like... I could see Memphis taking him at 9. I wouldn't be shocked at all, actually. If it's like San Antonio at 8, I'm shocked because I don't think they're gonna really value him because they have Wemby. But yeah, Memphis at 9 and Chicago at 11 are kind of the spots for him at the high end of his range. I think maybe OKC, but I think they want somebody a little bit more. reliable from the jump, a little bit more solid in terms of what they do well, like a Deron Holmes. And then, like, I don't see Sacramento at 13. Portland at 14 makes a ton of sense if they don't take a center initially. So I think it's Portland at 14, Chicago at 11, maybe Utah and at 10, and Memphis at 9 for the spots for him.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Any other rumors, chat, that you heard? Let us know.
Alex brought up his Cleveland Cavaliers. There's rumors they're trying to move into the lottery. I think they have the 20th pick.
Yeah.
They're trying to move up.
Listen, if they want 14 and there's like none of those players I was talking about earlier on the board and they wanted to give us an asset that might help us get like our future first back, then you could probably talk me into that. And then you just take Jalen Tyson at 20.
Yeah, they don't really have young player I'd want. But yeah, I'd be down for that. Tyson, one of Tyson, Dadiet, or Jerusik, I think, would be there.
I think at least two of them will be.
Yeah, so I think I could confidently say if you're going to take one of those at 14, you might as well pick up an asset and trade back a few spots. I don't know if that's high enough for what Cleveland's trying to get, because my guess is they're trying to get in that 10-11 range to get a Holland or a Cody Williams as well. But yeah, they've needed a small forward for a while.
Yeah, true. And then I'll toss out one other like juicy thing out there before we wrap up the stream. Okay, this is a gut feeling, right? This is not rumor. This is a gut feeling. I have a gut feeling that a certain guard who there isn't a ton of buzz like workout-wise around him right now for whatever reason, but he has been moving up some draft boards. I have a gut feeling that he's going to rise into the late lottery. I don't know where, but can you guess who that player is, Eric? I think it should be pretty easy to guess who it is.
A guard, you said?
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Carrington?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Because if you're swinging for upside, man, I remember when he was looked at as a second-round prospect, and I wasn't like, how do I word this? I didn't have him too high on my big board, but I liked a lot of his traits. And now that I go back, I'm liking his traits even more. And like every time I think about this guy, I like him more. Every time I watch this guy, I like him more. And it's for all the same things that I initially like identified as stuff that I liked, but I'm just more and more a believer of it, Eric.
I saw him have lottery grades on a lot of stuff really early in the season, and then he kind of fell back into the second round, and now he's rising back up again.
Like, good kid,
yeah.
Works hard, 3-level scoring, upside. He sneakily might have star-level upside. Like, he has a lot of upside.
Mm. Yeah, for me, it's tough between him and a guy like Keyshawn George, who had way better, like, I don't know, he just seemed to, I don't know if produce is the right word, because, but, like, he didn't really have the opportunity that Carrington had, I guess.
Yeah.
But, like, he still shot, like, 40% from three, and I don't know what Carrington finished at from three.
34%.
34%. Yeah, it just seemed like he kind of struggled shooting a little bit at times, but I don't think his form is bad. Yeah, Carrington's tough for me.
Here's the difference for me with them. Keyshawn George, to me, seems more likely to be just a shooter. Where Bub Carrington, he shot 32%. I was wrong, 32%. But, like, the way Bub Carrington gets to his shots is impressive. The way he gets to his spots is impressive. With Keyshawn George, there's a lot of time where it's like, man, I wanted him to actually like be aggressive off the dribble, and he just didn't have like the burst, didn't have the shiftiness. He can handle the ball, and he has a little bit of shift to him, but I have a harder time seeing that become like something that he can consistently tap into to like regularly create his own shot. I just feel like he's further away in that regard. Where Bub Carrington, I see a lot of things where it's like, man, he's going to be able to get to his spots. He's going to be able to hit tough shots. He's going to be able to potentially be a 3-level scorer. The downside and the question marks is, can he be efficient enough? But that's a better question mark than can he get to his spots and get to these shots.
Yeah. I wonder if Keyshawn George was on a team more like Pittsburgh where he got a little bit more.
Miami wasn't good, though.
I know they weren't good, but they were expected to be good, and they still had Nigel Pack and Poplar and who just completely dominated the ball when they were healthy. So those guys took a lot of shots, high usage rates. And so I don't know how much of an opportunity George got to show if he is capable. Now, I'm not saying
it's not like he got no opportunity, and you can base the movement stuff off of the opportunities that he did have, I feel like.
Yeah, but to me, they move very similarly. I don't know.
I don't think Keyshawn George is as quick or shifty as Carrington, which makes sense because Carrington's like a guard, Keyshawn George is like small forward size. But I just think that puts Carrington over the edge for me.
Yeah, I'm gonna look it up.
And pace, dude. Like Carrington's change of pace is good. Like for a freshman.
Mm-hmm. Carrington, his measurements.
He's 6'3" without shoes.
Yeah, 6'3", 6'8" wingspan.
That's pretty good.
It seemed like he was going to be. I don't know. He kind of reminded me of Delano Banton when I watched him, like full games, and so like it was to me it was a little. Yeah. Like it seemed like he had longer arms, is what I'm saying. Like it seemed like he was skinnier and longer, but he ended up being a little bigger and shorter than it seemed. But
he's 6'3.75".
Mm-hmm.
So he's 6'4".
But I just listed it like 6'6", I think. So
no, he was 6. I thought he was 6'4", 6'5".
I think they listed him as 6'6", or like a lot of draft things.
Fanspo had him at 6'5". They haven't updated their heights to like the new things. Yeah. They had him at 6'5", which old NBA, he's 6'5". He's a 6'5" point guard. Like that's the thing. I'm thinking about him in that context. Mm-hmm. Like he's an inch and a half taller than Dame, and he has a decent wingspan for his height. Like he is an above average sized point guard that is shifty, handles the ball, gets to his shots, 3-level scoring potential.
Yeah.
I have him number 8 on my board right now.
I'm drawing a blank. Pittsburgh had a point guard. Who was their point guard? There's another. Someone help me out in chat.
This year, I don't remember anyone else off their team because the rest of their team was trash.
They had a decent point guard this year. Why am I blanking on his name? I think I'm almost there.
Where can I see their stats from this year? As a team. Okay, there we go. Blake Hinson? No, he wasn't a point guard. 0.8 assists. You said point guard. Oh, he was listed as a guard. 18.5 points, 0.8 assists is crazy.
Yeah. I
Leggett,
must be. I think I'm thinking of Leggett. Yeah.
12 points, 1.9 assists.
Hmm.
Nobody passed. Carrington was the only guy who passed. He averaged over 4 assists.
Yeah.
I I don't know. I think he's gonna have enough passing too. Like, I think he's a good enough playmaker. He's not gonna be like 8, 9, 10 assists per game guy, but he has enough playmaking to be a scoring point guard instead of just like an undersized combo guard.
Yeah, but there are. I mean, 4 assists as a freshman is really good. Um, so yeah, I think. I don't know. I could see him being a good passer. Man, I really like. I watched the Pittsburgh games. I watched. I really was like, I want this. Like, I really like the way this guy moves.
Yeah,
He just really smooth.
yeah.
And
it's like that's paid off for me in the past, and I'm just like, maybe I should have him at 5.
Yeah.
I should just believe in that even more. I don't know. But he's like the number one. I just like the way he moves.
Yeah.
And in previous years, it was Austin Reeves, completely different tier and consensus on him. But I love the way Austin Reeves moved off the dribble, and I thought he would come around as a shooter, and he did both. And now he's top 10 in the redraft.
Can you believe 13 days from now we'll be already have talked
crazy.
about fit on all? We'll know what teams all these players are on and all that.
I am so excited for this draft, bro. Last year I was stressed. I am so excited for this draft. I cannot wait. Cannot wait, man. Anyway, anything else? This has been a fun stream. I've been really enjoying our streams this offseason. Hopefully, chat, viewers out there that watch after, hopefully you feel the same. Hopefully you've enjoyed our streams this offseason because they've been a lot of fun. Hopefully you feel the same, Eric.
All we do is whine and be negative.
Oh, but then we're excited for the draft. We need to be better. Oh, man. We literally, in case you didn't hear that earlier, we got crap in our comment section last stream for being like excited about seeing players' workouts for the Blazers. Man, I love this draft, flaws and all. Can't wait. 13 days away from the NBA draft, day 1, and then hopefully Eric can find a way to join us for day 2.
I think I'll be able to.
Fingers crossed. And I'm gonna try and get Xfinity to come out here and check my internet before then. They're probably just gonna say, oh, your internet's fine. I'll be like, dude, how many do you want me to go back over all my live streams? My whole chat, all my viewers know I have Xfinity and knows that it messes up. So, I'm gonna try and fix that before the draft. I mean, today was completely fine. So, I don't understand. Anyway.
Mr. B says, any updates on the coaching staff other than Nate Bjorkgren has been seen at all the workouts? That's the only update we've got. They haven't really given us an update, and obviously they haven't officially hired anyone.
Yeah. P-Town Maid says, does BetUS have boxing on there? Yes, they do. They have, like, everything.
They have everything.
So they'll be a sponsor again next year. I'm helping I'm helping with a big campaign for them with my work for Hog Media. So shout out to BetUS. I think my link is still active from a previous stream if you want to use that to sign up. Maybe I'll get credit even though they're not a sponsor because it's just off season. They don't do much this time of year. But yeah, boxing, MMA, I think as well. So anyway, that's a wrap for the stream. I gotta go. Sorry, no life advice. We'll start doing that again when we have less to talk about. But every stream we can go for 2 hours right now. Yeah. July and August, we shouldn't have a Dame saga again.
We got draft in less than 2 weeks. Then we got free agency a few days after that. It's that weekend, right? that the 30th is Sunday this year, I think.
It's always the 30th, yeah. That's pretty convenient, actually.
Yeah. So, Sunday, hopefully all the action happens day one this year. We'll, of course, have Blazers Uprise live on day two, if you don't stream during the day. So we had a fun, 3 weeks coming up. And then, after that, that's when we have to start manufacturing things to talk about sometimes.
Yep. Hey says he needed some advice. Well, if you still need advice on Monday, yes. But I was supposed to end the stream earlier than this, and we went long, so I appreciate you guys. And if you really need advice, you can always DM me on Twitter. Anyway, we're out of here. Thank you, Carter. Thank you to Carter Dick earlier for the donation. That was huge. Greatly appreciate that, man. Thank you for watching all our content. Thank you for supporting the channel. And you can support the channel on your way out of here by hitting that like button. We rarely ask for it, so reward us for not asking for it. Don't make us go full YouTuber and ask for likes all the time. So hit that like button on the way out of here. Also, I've almost fully edited a video. It'll be coming out tomorrow. It'll be top destinations trade-wise for a few Blazer players. So hopefully you enjoyed that as well. And with that being said, we are out of here. Looking forward to this draft on June 26th. I am so excited. Can't wait. And looking forward to future draft rumors. Future mock draft. Maybe we'll do one on Monday. But regardless, I'm enjoying this process, Eric. We're out of here. We'll catch you next time. Until then, as always, peace out. Go Blazers!